Damn it, Toriyama. Hey guys, MasakoX here. As we're approaching the end of the Tournament of Power, and indeed the end of Dragon Ball Super, we're starting to get some little bits of information coming out of the woodworks. Some tidbits that have been going on behind the scenes as we've been watching this, arc? I mean, yeah, sure, we've had spoilers for the ending of the series, which I'm not going to go into in this video, so rest assured. As well as some potential theories about what the movie might be that we're going to get at the end of December, but I think something else has come to light, which I think you will find very interesting, and are pretty much spoiler-free, so long as you've been actually watching the Tournament of Power. It all comes from a certain interview that was conducted on the official Dragon Ball news website, dragonball.news. Oh yeah, sure, Masako, this interview was done by someone who has no connection with Super whatsoever. Well, no. This comes from one of the major players, in fact, two of the major players in the series at this point. The series director, Ryota Nakamura, and one of the series producers, Satoru Takama. And yeah, sure, this website is in Japanese, of course, so it needs to be translated. And who better than one of the community's really big stalwarts when it comes to delivering us news from Japan, or even Korea for that matter. And that is, of course, Herms over on Twitter, who provided the source work and translation for what I'm about to talk about. So thank you very much, Herms, you're always doing a really good service, and I'll leave a link to the actual tweet itself in the description. Herms took it upon himself to look through the interview and summate what was going on really, because there's a little bit of chit chat in there, but there are some really interesting bullet points. And what are these bullet points about, you're asking me? Well, they're all to do with what happened before the Tournament of Power really got itself going. What was going on in Toriyama's head in his own vision of the Tournament of Power arc before the anime division got its hands on it, and even the likes of Toyotaro. I'm going to go through these bullet points with you, and let's just see what's up with all of them, why they are what they are, and if they make sense, or they kind of make things go, oh my god, it now is so clear, or if it's just like, why though? Okay, so the first two bullet points that Herms translates are pretty straightforward and what we can expect. Toriyama's initial proposal outlined the idea of 80 people fighting in a jumble, and included several character design images, plus the design for the tournament arena. Toriyama first drew the designs for Jiren, Toppo, and Dispo. Okay, so the whole concept of the Universe Survival Arc and the Tournament of Power, the main premise was from Toriyama, but it doesn't have quite the same ring to it, you know, the jumble of power. You may as well just go the whole hog and just call it a Power Jamboree! And another thing that we can say is that the three strongest members of the Pride Troopers, and therefore Universe 11, came from Toriyama's pen. But what about the rest of them? Well, the article continues to say that the rest of the Pride Troopers, including our boy Katsuroll, were actually created out by the anime staff, and gotta give props to them because I had no idea. I thought Toriyama created all of them, so good job for keeping it authentic. It's disappointing that Toriyama didn't come up with these cool powers and designs himself, but again, impressive that other people were able to emulate his style. So going forward, even if Toriyama pops his clogs far down the line, it means that the Dragon World, as we know it, can stay pretty genuine. So yeah, not bad at all. In fact, the rest of the first section of bullet points concerns many facts about the Pride Troopers, varying to degree in terms of relevance. But it does include a very, very interesting one, that there was a point at the beginning of the exhibition match where something really weird happened, but now it makes it completely clear. According to this interview, what we know as Toppo was originally actually meant to be Jiren. I mean, in terms of personality and passion for justice, as well as the sound of his own voice. This was down to the fact that in the original draft for the Universe Survival Arc, Toriyama didn't give really any direction in terms of Jiren's persona. So therefore, the anime team could just go, okay, hey, Jiren's this big guy, so can you imagine Jiren being the one to do the Justice dub? Toyotaro would have gotten these same notes as well, so you know when Jiren was introduced in the manga, he was very talkative and talked about justice and not wanting to hurt everybody. You go like, oh, okay, so the anime staff and Toyotaro just took creative liberty. Well, for a point, because when Toriyama got another draft back, he said, well, no, that's not meant to be Jiren at all. He's meant to be the strong and silent type. He's the one that doesn't speak. And When he got the draft and provided another draft from the anime staff, he also came up with the backstory for Jiren. You know, how his family were slaughtered and how his martial arts teacher was also killed by a really unknown spooky evil villain. After years of being meddled with editorially, Toriyama is now being the one doing the editorial meddling to the anime staff and Toyotaro. Swings and roundabouts, eh? Must have been very disheartening for some of the anime stuff to actually try and swallow. But it's okay though. All their ideas and inventions and dialogue about justice could easily be transferred over to Toppo. None of that went to waste. So maybe this would explain the sudden change at the exhibition match when Universe 11 showed up and watched. Jiren was very cloaked. We just saw his arms and we thought we were going to see Jiren right then, but no, it then switched to Toppo. It was an easy fix to make, but then you think, oh, so maybe that's when they got the memo from Toriyama and went, dang it, okay, we gotta change some things. So yeah, let's just make him really cloaked so no one can tell. But we saw through it though. Go back to Toppo for a second. It is confirmed that Toriyama in the original draft thought that Toppo was going to be a candidate for the God of Destruction for Universe 11, so that whole plot point remained the same in all drafts of this arc. Well, what about Dispo then? Yeah, it's kind of a shame that Dispo kind of got neglected, not just by Toriyama but the anime staff, because originally they had no idea what to do with the guy. It wasn't until Dispo was casted to Bim Shimada, who's actually the voice of Broly by the way, that the anime staff managed to get an idea about what Dispo was about. And you kind of get that idea when you first see Dispo. He's just the very nervy and just really paranoid sidekick, but once Bim Shimada really gets into the role and Tournament of Power, you see the personality change. He becomes cocky and somewhat psychotic. It's not uncommon for actors to meld how the character acts on terms of screen time, and vice versa, so yeah, this pretty much keeps up with the trend. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the character that we know as Ribrienne. Yeah, she was everybody's favourite, right? Right? Well, I gotta admit, I liked her. I thought she was cool. It turns out that the character of Ribrienne was actually a team effort. It was the anime staff and Toriyama working together. The whole idea of her being quite large and subverting the magical girl genre was from Toriyama, but the whole idea of actually having the transformation and finishing the complete package came from the anime staff, and her being Brienne de Chateau, being this pretty young girl, and then her transforming into Ribrienne, being this tough representative of Universe 2, and completely parodying the Magical Girl series is fantastic. It's a great idea. But speaking of big, this is the big one, at least for me. I've been going on about a lot of female Super Saiyan theories, as well as the whole idea of female Super Saiyans being in Dragon Ball Super, for the longest time. Pretty much for as long as I've been doing these discussions. So when I find out that, ooh, cool, there are going to be some female Super Saiyans in Super. Fantastic! Toriyama's managed to be really progressive. No! Nah. That's not what happened. In the original draft, Toriyama had no concept of female Super Saiyans whatsoever. Yeah. Damn. But Masako! This makes total sense! Women can't go Super Saiyan! The tingling back theory is really bad! How dare you defend them! Unsubscribe! Now I'm gonna stop you right there because there's no time for that nonsense. Here we're trying to talk about the nuances and the machinations of how Toriyama worked with the anime staff of Super. Neither Caulifla nor Kale were in Toriyama's original draft. During a conference meeting, the subject of Broly's popularity came up, and so the anime staff created Kale. They made her a girl so that she wouldn't be exactly the same as Broly. Once they showed Kale to Toriyama, he created Caulifla to go along with her. So yeah, in that committee meeting, somebody obviously asked the idea of when Broly, and then the powers of marketing was far too strong to resist. The only thing that they could really think of to do was to change the gender so as that you can keep all the movie theorists away from your product, not give any kind of canonistic headaches. But surely they would know that those attempts would be futile. As for Caulifla, one of the highlights for the arc, at least for me, turns out she was just an afterthought. She was a reactive result of seeing Kale, and it just proves that Toriyama is not a proactive writer at all. He is a very reactive writer, responding to criticisms and comments, and just relying on other people to do his work for him. Toriyama basically saw the designs for Kale and went like, she should have a partner. I like buddy acts, so, there you go. I thought Toriyama had the nous to actually think of female Super Saiyans because we see them in Dragon Ball Heroes and other properties of Dragon Ball all the time. You'd think he would be able to include that in the main series. Now he has pretty much entirely creative freedom. But no, it didn't occur to him naturally. But then again, does he really care? Probably not. Well, I think the one crumb of comfort that we can have is that at least he did it. At least he didn't just go, well, women can't go Super Saiyan, so yeah, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so what else can we think about? Oh, I know. How about the idea that Ultra Instinct wasn't around at the beginning of the arc? Not in the original draft? I guess he doesn't remember what Whis was talking about in terms of releasing potential back in the Resurrection F arc. Luckily for him though, the anime staff are very clued up and very knowing of what's been going on in the past of the arcs, so therefore they could tie everything really nicely and make it all seem like, when we find out that Whis goes, I knew he would do it with Ultra Instinct, you go like, oh, that thing he talked about nearly 100 episodes ago, oh, it came true! They connected the dots, whereas Toriyama didn't. I appreciate Toriyama didn't make this another Super Saiyan form, but what I don't appreciate is the fact of the official image that came out in a Dragon Ball Park magazine was basically a recoloring of the Super Saiyan God image. It's so blatant. The folds of the clothes, the pose, the look. The only things that have changed are the hair color, obviously, and the shape of the eyes. But in terms of the structure, it's basically the same. Okay, let's get to the meat and potatoes of the Tournament Power. Eliminations. Were they coming down from the edicts of Toriyama? Well, yeah, they were. And they were very detailed too. Probably the most detailed notes coming from Toriyama. All 10 warriors from Universe 7 had their roadmap in the tournament completely sketched out, and Toriyama knew what was going to happen to them, right down to the biggest detail, including, for Piccolo for example, who he was going to be eliminated by and when it was going to happen. Included in all of those notes is the fact that Universe 7 was going to go all the way to the final with Universe 11. And yeah, that swapping of Majin Buu with Frieza, that wasn't a last minute change by the anime staff. That was planned from the very beginning with Toriyama. Why would Toriyama think that that same joke would be funny a second time? Especially after we saw Fit Buu and we were getting all excited. But then again, it's been proven many times in history that Toriyama likes to screw around with the fandom. He knew what he was doing. He was playing us for chumps. So okay, to wrap things up, let's talk about the Frieza energy transfer at the end of episode 110 and into 111. A role reversal from the end of the Frieza saga back in Z. We thought, wow, that was really cool. That wasn't an idea from Toriyama, that was an anime staff idea. And they have proven many times that they know their Dragon Ball. There are many references going on in there. And to have this moment, but just have the tables turned, remarkable. Really good idea. And nor was it the idea of Toriyama's for 18 and Ribrian basically to go on a little mini rant of the concept of love and what it means for their respective partners, or that whole idea of the subject. What was I thinking? Toriyama has gone on record many times to say he doesn't know how to write love and romance stories. I'm glad it made the cut, and it was a really big character moment for the couple of 18 and Krillin, and it proves that they are the best couple in Dragon Ball. Lastly, there's a note from Takumi, one of the series producers, that Toriyama has left things deliberately open-ended, implying that there may be more stories to come for Dragon Ball in the future. And another note was going to be that something special is going to happen at the end of the last episode, so what it's going to be, I mean, obviously there's going to be something special because it's the last episode, but what it is, we don't know. We shall see. Ultimately, what can we take from this interview? Well, the one thing that we can definitely take from this is that Dragon Ball Super is quite clearly a massive team effort. It's not 100% Toriyama, it's not 100% the anime staff. It's them working together to come up with a construct for modern Dragon Ball. And despite Toriyama overseeing it, it's not really his anymore. He's kind of letting things go and letting other people take on the task. People that are more passionate about Dragon Ball, because Toriyama's been with this whole IP for over 30 years. You're gonna get fatigued. The team behind Super clearly love the series and they want to do their best to try and make a good product. And the fact they have Toriyama, this creative genius, and their idol actually watching over them gives them the motivation to come up with something that would be faithful to what makes the show it is. But then again, I can get some ideas from this interview that the anime staff was sometimes frustrated with Toriyama's ideas, kind of heading them off at the pass, stopping them in their tracks. That's always frustrating for any kind of creative. Toriyama's getting his editorial revenge on all the people that gave him gypped many years ago, so I think he's enjoying it to some extent, lording it over people. So what do you guys think? Were these facts fascinating to you? Do you think there are chances for other stories to unfold in the near future? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!